The unexpected turn. The coffee maker sputtered to life at exactly 6:47 a.m., 3 minutes later than usual, and Alex Morrison knew with the certainty of a man who had measured his life in precise increments that this small deviation would somehow unravel everything. He stood in his kitchen, wearing yesterday's wrinkled shirt and tomorrow's worries, watching the dark liquid drip into the glass carafe with the irregular rhythm of a failing heart. The familiar scent of brewing coffee usually brought a quiet comfort to his mornings, but today, a subtle tremor ran beneath the surface of his usual routine. His anniversary with Sarah was tomorrow, and he'd been planning a quiet dinner at their favorite Italian bistro. Nothing fancy, just them. He thought he had everything sorted, but a nagging feeling, like a misplaced key, kept nudging him. Work had been particularly demanding lately, pulling him in a million directions, and he felt a familiar exhaustion settling deep in his bones. Alex reached for his phone, muscle memory guiding his thumb to Sarah's contact, but stopped mid-swipe. The screen showed 17 missed calls from his mother, all time-stamped between 2:30 and 4:15 a.m. His stomach dropped like a stone through water. "Mom?" His voice cracked as she answered on the first ring. "Alex, honey, I'm sorry to call so early, but..." Her voice wavered, and in that pause, Alex felt the architecture of his carefully constructed world begin to shift. "It's your father. He's in the hospital." The coffee maker gave a final wheeze and fell silent. Alex stared at the half-filled carafe, watching steam rise and dissipate, much like his plans for the next 24 hours. His father, the man who had taught him to tie his shoes and change a tire, who had never missed a single one of Alex's baseball games despite working double shifts at the factory, was lying in a hospital bed 3 states away. "What happened?" Alex asked, already reaching for his keys with his free hand. "Heart attack. Last night around 2. He's stable now, but..." His mother's voice broke completely. "The doctors want to keep him for observation. Maybe surgery. I don't know, Alex. I don't know anything anymore." Alex closed his eyes and leaned against the kitchen counter, feeling the cool granite against his palms. Through the window, he could see his neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, walking her ancient golden retriever, the same route they'd taken every morning for the past 8 years. The world continued its rotation, indifferent to personal catastrophes. "I'm coming, Mom. I'll be there today." "But don't you have that anniversary dinner with Sarah? Tomorrow night? You've been planning it for weeks." The anniversary. Sarah had mentioned it just last night, her eyes bright with anticipation as she talked about finally having a quiet evening together after months of his 70-hour work weeks. She'd even bought a new dress, navy blue with tiny silver buttons that caught the light when she moved. Alex had seen it hanging in their closet, still bearing the price tag she'd forgotten to remove. "That doesn't matter now," he said, though his chest tightened as he spoke. "Family comes first." After hanging up, Alex stood motionless in his kitchen, surrounded by the detritus of interrupted routine, an untouched bowl of cereal growing soggy, the morning newspaper still folded, his work laptop humming with unread emails. He felt like an actor who had forgotten his lines in the middle of a crucial scene. The sound of bare feet on hardwood announced Sarah's arrival. She appeared in the doorway, her dark hair tousled from sleep, wearing the oversized college sweatshirt she'd claimed from his dresser drawer years ago and never returned. Even rumpled and squinting against the morning light, she was beautiful in that effortless way that had first caught his attention in the bookstore where they'd met, both reaching for the same copy of Garcia Marquez. "You're up early," she said, then noticed his expression. "What's wrong?" Alex explained quickly, watching her face transform from sleepy confusion to alert concern. Sarah had always been able to read the subtle barometric changes in his mood, a skill that had served them well through 3 years of dating and 2 years of marriage. She crossed the kitchen and wrapped her arms around him, and for a moment, Alex allowed himself to sink into her warmth. "Of course you have to go," she said against his shoulder. "Your dad needs you." "But tomorrow..." "Tomorrow doesn't matter. We can celebrate our anniversary any day. Your father only gets one heart attack, and hopefully this is it." She pulled back to look at him. "I'll help you pack." Alex felt a surge of gratitude, so intense it bordered on pain. This was why he'd married her. Not just for her beauty or her laugh or the way she made even mundane Tuesday evenings feel like celebrations, but for moments like this, when she became his anchor in rough seas. While Sarah threw clothes into his overnight bag with characteristic efficiency, Alex called his office. His supervisor, Janet, answered with the crisp professionalism that had made her legendary in their marketing firm. "Family emergency," Alex explained. "I need to drive to Ohio today." "The Henderson presentation is Monday," Janet said, her voice carrying that particular tone reserved for inconvenient truths. "I know, but—" "Alex, you've been working on this account for 6 months. Henderson specifically requested you for this pitch. If we lose this client because you're not here to present—" Alex closed his eyes. The Henderson account represented 6 figures in potential revenue, a contract that could secure his position at the firm and maybe even earn him the promotion he'd been chasing. But the alternative, not being there for his father, was unthinkable. "I'll work on it from the road. I can present via video conference if necessary." Janet's sigh was audible. "You know that's not how Henderson operates. He's old school. Face-to-face or nothing." "Then I guess it's nothing," Alex said, surprising himself with the firmness in his voice. "I'm going to Ohio." The silence stretched between them like a taut wire. Finally, Janet spoke. "Don't make this a habit, Morrison." After hanging up, Alex found Sarah in their bedroom, holding the navy dress she'd bought for their anniversary dinner. Her fingers traced the silver buttons absently. "I keep thinking about that night we met," she said without looking up. "You were so nervous asking for my number. You kept apologizing for interrupting my reading." "You were reading the same page for 20 minutes, Alex said, attempting levity. "I figured you were either really struggling with Spanish or just pretending to read." Sarah smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I was pretending. I'd been watching you browse the poetry section, working up the courage to say something." Alex sat on the bed beside her. "I never knew that. There's a lot you don't know about me," she said, and something in her tone made him look at her more carefully. "Like how I've been thinking about us lately. About where we're going." "What do you mean?" Sarah set the dress aside and turned to face him fully. "Alex, when was the last time we had a real conversation? Not about work or bills or whose turn it is to do laundry, but about dreams, about what we want from life." The question hung between them like smoke. Alex tried to remember, but found only fragments. Hurried conversations over morning coffee, texts exchanged between meetings, perfunctory goodnights before falling into exhausted sleep. "I know you're driven," Sarah continued. "It's one of the things I love about you. But sometimes I feel like I'm married to a ghost. You're here, but you're not really here." Alex felt something crack inside his chest, a hairline fracture he hadn't noticed forming. "Sarah, I'm not saying this to hurt you," she said quickly. "I'm saying it because I love you, because I want us to work. But I need to know that you want that too, not just in theory but in practice." Before Alex could respond, his phone buzzed with a text from his mother. "Dad's asking for you. Hurry." The drive to Ohio stretched endlessly before him, 8 hours of interstate highways and truck stops, of radio static and his own churning thoughts. Alex had always been a planner, someone who color-coded his calendar and kept backup plans for his backup plans. But sitting in his car in the driveway, engine running, he felt unmoored from everything he thought he knew about his life. Sarah peered at the driver's side window, having changed into jeans and a sweater. "Move over," she said. "What?" "I'm coming with you." "Sarah, you don't have to." "Yes, I do." She opened the door. "We're married, Alex. That means we face things together. Your father is my family, too." As Sarah settled into the passenger seat, Alex felt a weight he hadn't realized he'd been carrying begin to lift. They drove in comfortable silence for the first hour, Sarah's hand resting on his thigh, both of them lost in their own thoughts. It was Sarah who broke the silence. "Tell me about your dad when you were little." Alex found himself talking about summer evenings in his childhood backyard, his father teaching him to throw a curveball despite never having played organized baseball himself. He talked about the way his father would hum while making breakfast on Sunday mornings, always slightly off-key, but with such genuine joy that it made the whole house feel musical. "He sounds wonderful," Sarah said.
He is.
"He's also stubborn as hell and has the worst taste in movies you've ever seen. He owns every Steven Seagal film ever made." Sarah laughed, and Alex realized it had been weeks since he'd heard that sound. Well, nobody's perfect. They stopped for lunch at a diner that looked like it had been transplanted from 1952, complete with red vinyl booths and a jukebox that played songs from before either of them was born. Sarah ordered pie with her sandwich, something she never did at home. "Life's short," she said when Alex raised an eyebrow. "Your dad's heart attack kind of puts things in perspective." As they ate, Sarah asked about his work, really asked, not just the polite inquiries that had become their standard dinner conversation. Alex found himself describing the challenges of the Henderson account, the pressure he felt to prove himself, the way success at work had become tangled up with his sense of self-worth. "You know what I realized last night?" Sarah said, twirling her fork in the pie filling. "I can't remember the last time you talked about your dreams. Not work goals or financial targets, but dreams. The things that make you excited to wake up in the morning." Alex considered this. "I used to want to write. I remember. You had that notebook you carried everywhere when we first met." "I still have it," Alex admitted. "Tucked away in my desk drawer at home. Haven't touched it in 2 years." "What changed?" Alex stared out the diner window at the parking lot, where a family was loading luggage into their minivan, the parents laughing while their children chased each other between the cars. "I guess I decided that dreams were a luxury I couldn't afford. That being practical was more important than being happy. And now I'm wondering if I had it backwards." They arrived at the hospital as afternoon shadows were growing long. Alex's father looked smaller than Alex remembered, diminished by the white hospital gown and the tangle of monitoring wires. But his eyes were alert, and when he saw Alex and Sarah, his face lit up with the same smile that had greeted Alex every day after school for 18 years. "There's my boy," he said, his voice hoarse but strong. "And my beautiful daughter-in-law. You didn't have to come all this way." "Of course we did," Sarah said, kissing his forehead. "Where else would we be?" Alex's mother looked exhausted but relieved. She hugged them both tightly, and Alex could feel her trembling slightly. "The doctor says it was minor, thank God. They want to do a procedure to open up one of the arteries, but he should be fine." They spent the evening in the hospital room, sharing stories and memories. Alex's father, despite his condition, regaled them with tales from his factory days, each story more outrageous than the last. Sarah laughed at all the right moments, asking questions that drew out even more details. "You know," Alex's father said during a quiet moment, "I've been lying here thinking about what really matters. And it's not the overtime hours or the extra shifts or any of that. It's moments like this.
Family.
The people who love you showing up when you need them most." Alex felt tears prick his eyes. "Dad." "Let me finish," his father said gently. "I see how hard you work, son. I'm proud of you. But don't make the mistake I almost made. Don't get so caught up in providing for life that you forget to live it." Later, in the hotel room they'd booked nearby, Alex and Sarah lay in the unfamiliar bed, staring at the ceiling. The events of the day had stripped away the usual barriers they'd built around their emotions, leaving them raw and honest. "Your father's right," Sarah said quietly, "about not forgetting to live." "I know," Alex said. "I've been so focused on building a life that I stopped experiencing it." Sarah turned to face him. "The anniversary dinner tomorrow. We missed it, but maybe that's okay. Maybe we needed this instead. This reminder of what's really important." Alex reached for her hand in the darkness. "I want to write again," he said, the words tumbling out before he could stop them. "I want to wake up excited about something other than quarterly reports and client presentations." "Then write," Sarah said simply. "I'll support you. We'll figure out the practical stuff together." "What if I'm not good enough? What if I've waited too long?" Sarah's fingers intertwined with his. "What if you are good enough? What if it's exactly the right time?" The next morning, Alex's father was moved to a regular room, the immediate crisis past. The doctors were optimistic about his recovery, though they stressed the importance of lifestyle changes and regular checkups. As Alex and Sarah prepared to leave for home, his father pulled him aside. "That girl you married," he said, nodding toward Sarah, who was helping Alex's mother organize the flowers that had arrived throughout the day. "She's special. Don't let work or ambition or fear make you forget that." "I won't," Alex promised and meant it. The drive home was different from the frantic journey of the day before. They took their time, stopping at roadside attractions and small towns they'd never noticed before. Sarah bought postcards at a gas station, writing brief messages to friends back home. Alex found himself really seeing the landscape for the first time in years, noticing the way late afternoon light painted the rolling hills gold. "I called in sick tomorrow," Sarah said as they neared home. "Let's have our anniversary dinner. Not at the bistro, but here. I'll cook, we'll drink wine, and you can tell me about the story you're going to write." Alex pulled into their driveway as the sun was setting, painting their modest house in shades of amber and rose. The familiar sight looked different somehow, more like a home and less like a way station between work and sleep. Inside, while Sarah started dinner, Alex went to his desk and pulled out the notebook he'd mentioned at the diner. The pages were yellowed at the edges, filled with half-formed ideas and abandoned beginnings. But as he flipped through them, he felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Possibility. His phone buzzed with a text from Janet. "Henderson meeting moved to Wednesday. Hope your father is okay." Alex stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back, "Dad's recovering well. Thanks for asking. See you Wednesday." He set the phone aside without checking his email, without reviewing his presentation notes, without doing any of the 100 small tasks that usually consumed his evenings. Instead, he picked up a pen and began to write. Sarah found him there an hour later, 3 pages deep in a story about a man who discovers that the life he thought he wanted isn't the life he needs. She read over his shoulder, her chin resting on the top of his head. "It's good," she said. "Really good." "It's messy," Alex said. "Unpolished. All the best things are, at first." They ate dinner by candlelight, talking about everything and nothing, rediscovering the easy intimacy that had drawn them together in the first place. Sarah told him about her own dreams, the photography studio she'd always wanted to open, the travel photography book she'd been researching for months, but never mentioned. "Why didn't you tell me?" Alex asked. "Because you seemed so focused on your own career. I didn't want to add pressure." "We're quite a pair," Alex said. "Both of us hiding our dreams from each other." "Not anymore," Sarah said, raising her wine glass. "To new beginnings." "To unexpected turns," Alex replied, clinking his glass against hers. Later, as they cleaned up together, Alex's phone rang. It was his mother, calling to report that his father had eaten a full dinner and was flirting with the nurses. "He's going to be fine," she said, and Alex heard tears of relief in her voice. After hanging up, Alex found Sarah on their back porch, looking up at the stars. He joined her, wrapping his arms around her from behind.
"Thank you," he said.
"For what?"
"For coming with me. For supporting me.
"For reminding me what love looks like." Sarah leaned back against him. "We're going to be okay, aren't we?" Alex thought about the question, about the uncertain path ahead, about the risks they'd both have to take to pursue their dreams. But he also thought about his father's words, about the importance of showing up for the people you love, about the difference between living and merely existing. "Yeah," he said, meaning it completely. "We're going to be better than okay." The coffee maker was working perfectly the next morning, brewing at exactly 6:44 a.m. as programmed. But Alex barely noticed, too busy making notes for his story, too excited about the day ahead to worry about minor deviations from routine. Sarah sat across from him, sketching in a notebook she'd unearthed from somewhere, her face bright with the same creative energy that had first attracted him to her. The familiar scent of brewing coffee filled the kitchen, but today it carried with it the promise of change, of growth, of a life lived deliberately rather than by default. Alex looked at his wife, really looked at her, and saw not just the woman he'd married but the woman she was becoming, the woman she'd always been beneath the surface of their routine existence. "Ready for whatever comes next?" Sarah asked, looking up from her sketching. Alex smiled, feeling lighter than he had in years. Absolutely. Outside, Mrs. Patterson walked her ancient golden retriever along the same route they'd taken every morning for the past 8 years. But today, Alex noticed, she'd added a small detour to examine the roses blooming in the corner garden. Even the most established routines, it seemed, could accommodate unexpected turns.